to see all these shining faces on Friday Eve. And happy Friday Eve to each and every one of you guys. Welcome to Meet Them at the Door, Rethinking Parent Engagement Strategies. So, I'm going to give you a little introduction to myself. So, my name is Amber Peters. I go by Mizz P in these streets because it's easier to find me on Google. I am a college and career consultant, so I work all over this great city supporting students, families, schools, and organizations with college and career planning processes. My jam right now is all things FAFSA, financial aid. I love talking about money, 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 money. And the reason being is because that is the thing that families need the most information about, right? It's great to say that my child has applied for something, but also I want them to actually achieve it. And so for them to actually achieve it, I need to know how I'm going to pay for this thing. And that has been the thing I have been most focused on in the last couple of years is like focusing my attention on helping parents to be the hero in their children's story, right? They don't want to be the one that has to disappoint, like, hey, right? Like my mama did me. Uh, right? At the last hour, like, hey, baby, I love you, but guess what? Guess who don't have money? Me, right? And so a lot of the work that I do is around helping those families to figure out what that looks like for them. I am a proud Bronxite. I am a resource queen. I love little tech tools and things to make my life easier. A little bit about me. I used to be a special ed teacher back in the day. So a lot of the work that I do, I use scaffolding quite a bit, right? I don't throw kids into the deep end. I don't throw parents into the deep end. I scaffold them up to wherever it is that they want to go. And so in thinking about that, I'm always thinking about resources that will make not only my life easier, but also make the work easier for them as well. And so that is me in a nutshell. I would love to get to know you guys. So I'm going to open up my little chat a little bit so I can see. If you can drop your name and the program you serve right now, just so I can, see who's in the room, that would be lovely. The other thing is for energy for me, right? I don't run on Dunkin'. I am not a coffee girly, right? And so the energy for me comes from you guys, right? So the more energy you give me, the more energy I return to you, okay? So let's see who is in the room. Hi, Melissa from Mesa. Hi, Kalia. I hope I'm saying your name right. International's Network for Public Schools. Sophia from Beam. Wonderful. Oma from Astor Collegiate Academy. Liz from where we at? CUNY Prep. Marissa. Belmont. Carrie. Beta. Belky, my baby. Hi, boo. Belky was one of my babies from College Bridge for All, now College and Career Bridge for All. So lovely to see you in the room.
This is
Uh,
very well.
hey, Tamiko. Tamiko from Comprehensive Youth Development at City of School. Odette Kamba. Hopeton at Seek. Oh, we got some Seek people in here. Wonderful. So, welcome to all of you guys. So, let's talk about what our objectives are for today. So, our objective is to share and identify parent engagement strategies, right? Like, our goal is to one, we're going to highlight some stuff that maybe you may not have been thinking about, but also I want you guys to be able to share things that are working for you so that we all can, mix and match strategies to fit what we do in our work. The other part is that by the end, we want you to commit to at least one actionable thing that you can do, right? To strengthen parent engagement at your school or program. Like that is the goal. If you are in agreement with that goal, can I just get like a ready player one in the chat? If you are good with these objectives, if this is something that we can do, just throw a ready player one in the chat for me. Let's see who's ready. Let's go, Sophia. All right. Let's go, Liz. Let's go. Let's go, Oma. Let's go, Melissa. All right. So let's start by discussing something, right? If you had to think of a word that came up for you when you thought about parent engagement, what word would that be? I want you to answer that in the chat. When it comes to parent engagement, what is a word that comes to mind when you think about parent engagement? Okay, I see consistency, communication, service, necessary, connection, fear. Sophia, you are not the only one, okay? When I started as a special education teacher, I heard some really crazy stories about parents, and I was scared to death to call these people. I was like, you want me to call who? What? I don't know if I want to do that, right? So fear is a real thing, right? Resources, communication, partnership, delivery, engagement, right? All of these words are actually really great words to use when it comes to parent engagement because we need to be thinking about all of that, right? How do we connect them to the school? How do we connect them also to their children? Sometimes, it's not even just that we're doing the work of, college and career or, helping them to achieve in school. Sometimes we end up being like a little bit of a therapist, right? Helping them to talk to each other better, right? So that communication is going to show up there. That connection is going to be there, right? So all of these things are great ways to kind of get us started and get us thinking about what parent engagement should be. So let's talk about why parent engagement matters, right? Super important. We know that um, it can influence a lot of things. So, in the research, it says family engagement in school contributes to positive student outcomes, including improved child and student achievement, decreased disciplinary issues, improved parent teacher and teacher student relationships, and improved school environment. Okay. We also know that students with supportive parents are 81% more likely to graduate from high school, right? And also, right, when we're thinking about college and career specifically, right, parent engagement is one of the strongest predictors of whether students complete key college enrollment steps, especially FAFSA, right? We know what happened with the FAFSA. It got split in half because some dum-dum went to the people in Congress and said, it will be great if we split the application up. It's going to help this thing to be simpler, right? And we know that couldn't be further from the truth, right? Applications, making decisions, all of these things are things that can be influenced by parent engagement. Right. So when students feel informed and supported, students are more likely to complete the FAFSA on time, submit college applications, understand their award packages, and confidently choose and enroll in a best fit school. So I want to pause there for just a second because in my work, like I said, I work all over New York City. So I get to see what's working and what's not working in different areas, right? And so I'm invited into people's schools and I can see a lot of different things, right? And one thing that I notice is that, right, everybody doesn't have a handle on this, right? There are some schools who doing parent engagement really well. And there are some schools that are really struggling, and you can tell in the numbers of the students actually doing the things that they need to do, right? And so if we focus on the parent engagement, right, we know that strong parent engagement is going to give us strong student outcomes, right? We have to stop looking at this as just a student only process and start looking at it as a family affair, right? When we start looking at it as a family affair and everybody is a part of it, right? Everybody has their role and position to play, right? Those student outcomes are going to be even stronger. Okay. So when I say meet them at the door, meet families at the door, I mean meet families wherever they are, right? And that could look like a lot of different things, right? So we mean by meeting them at the doors, considering their schedule, right? Um, we know that some parents are going to be able to show up to all the things, and some parents are not going to be able to show up to all the things because maybe they work, right? Their comfort levels. There are some schools, like some school people that are quite scary, right? If you haven't been in school in a while, and like the last thing you remember of school staff is being one of like, right, fear, right? and that has been your experience in school. Now showing up for your kid in school, you're worried these people are going to judge me, these people are going to treat me a certain way, right? And so we have to look at their comfort levels, right? We also have to look at their communication styles, right? How do they communicate? And we need to ramp up whatever is working, whatever they think works for them. We need to ramp up what works for them and not always just what works for us. We also have to think about their lived realities, right? If they have multiple children and they have to go to multiple schools to get, information about multiple children, we have to really think about how can we engage them if all of these things are true for them, right? If we are able to figure that out, right, engagement will be accessible and sustainable over time, right? And for us, I know as, working college counselors, college and career counselors, we're doing a lot. We wear a lot of hats. But if we can really figure this out and systematize this, so one of the things that I'm also really big on is having a system and process for everything. I think sometimes we leave a lot of stuff to chance, right? And then we're doing what I call triage, right? Like we're at the hospital, it's like, okay, what's broken? What's right? Do you have a fever? Let's treat the fever, right? We have to do a lot of pre-planning beforehand so that we can get to a place where we can achieve sustainability and we have this thing that is working for us, right? Instead of burning us out throughout the time. Okay. So I want you to answer the poll. Answer honestly, right? I'm going to say this is like Planet Fitness. This is no judgment zone, okay? So don't feel a way about, responding however you choose to respond, right? So if you had to rate your current parent engagement vibe, what would you say? Are you locked in with those parents? Are you trying your best? Could it be better? Or do you need help? Right? No judgment zone. I just kind of want to see where we are. Um, I see trying my best. I see it could be better. I see a lot of could be better. I love these emojis, by the way. Could be better. Could be better. Okay, so that's why we're here, right? We're here to share, trying my best. And that's all we can do, right? That's all we can do is try our best. So this is what I want you guys to do, okay? I want you to name what is the thing that is currently working for you. For the ones who are trying their best, for the ones who it could be better, like what is actually working? So think about those things that are actually working and drop them in the chat. I'll take a few people. If you are okay with coming off mute, I would love a few people to come off mute and kind of share what they're doing that is actually working. Okay, so I see the Teach Hub text messaging. I see emails. I see phone calls after school. Phone calls. Okay, so I see a lot of phone calls. I see text messaging. I see email. Introduction emails at the beginning of the year, followed by an in-person meeting as a group, and then an individual meeting. Nice. Sharing of celebrations. Several messages sent through a parent coordinator with school updates and events, and offering free food. Listen, people be discounting the importance of free food, right? Free food gets them out all the time, right? I don't have to cook. What? Sure, I'm showing up, right? Also, I just want to make sure that we also please add drinks to that too, right? I've been to a couple of events where they brought food for the people and nothing to drink, okay? And then, right, parents find another thing to complain about. Sending pics to parents of their child submitting applications, working on Oh, I like that. That's wonderful, right? That's a great way to boost morale, right? Get everybody excited that are a part of the process, right? Making it a family affair. I really love that idea. Wonderful.
Love
Okay,
that. I love that so much, Melissa. I had to
right?
chime in because when my kids were in pre-K, they used to send me pictures of them doing this and the other thing. And then this the other weekend, I was helping my son do the CUNY application, and I took his picture, and I love that you're on the same vibe as me. I love that.
Yes, right. And now you're hearing from a parent, right, who's saying they love this stuff, right? So consider maybe adding that to the party, okay? Um, so I am going to share some other ideas. Some of these were already talked about. Um, and some of these have not been. So for me, so one of the things that people know me from, they know me from social media, right? And so I have been doing social media since about 2015. I only really started taking it seriously in the last couple of years. And the reason being is because I know that people who follow me, not all of them are in schools who have lovely people like you that are sharing the entire process, right? And so some of the clients that I have are not from this state. And what I learned about people outside of New York is that there's like one counselor for like 1,000 students, right? And so knowing that, I wanted to try to make this thing more accessible by being on social media and like breaking up things that could be really heavy, complex processes and making it more simple, right? And so for me, I go for a mixed media approach because that gives me the most bang for my buck. I get to be able to support people in the learning style, right? Like I said, I was a special education teacher, so I'm like heavily always thinking about the ways people receive information and the way people retain information. And so for me, I know I can't do a 10-minute video and people are going to remember what the heck I said, right? And so I split those videos up into like 1 minute things. And I also do something like I'll send a newsletter out, right? And so the newsletter I send out once a month. And in that newsletter, many of the times, because we can predict all of the things that happen within this world, right? So if you've been doing college access for a while, you know they're going to do applications at a certain time. You know they're going to do financial aid at a certain time, right? You can pre-plan a lot of these things ahead of time, set it and forget it, right? And when I mean set it and forget it, you can schedule it to go out when you want it to go out versus you having to babysit this thing, right? Social media. There are some schools that do social media and it's working. I have been looking at, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the new HBCU school that was just built in Queens. It's HBCU Prep. They have a partnership with Delaware State University, and so the kids there will not only get a high school diploma but also a college degree as well. When they graduate, they started off in their ninth grade year. And so what they've been doing is sharing things that have been happening at school on their social media, right? And so what I'm noticing is that not only do they have community buy-in, they also have a lot of parents that are heavily on there trying to see what their kids are up to and trying to see what has been happening at the school. And so what they've been doing is telling a story of what's been going on, right, through a series of pictures and videos and things of that nature to kind of document the process. That is something that you can also do for your families. If they're not on social media, you can still take that idea and add it to your newsletters, right? And so you're documenting the processes of what's happening. You're giving them information about the things that they need to do also in this newsletter. You can set it and forget it, right? So it does not have to be a burden on you at any point in time. Flyers work, right, for families who may have tech issues. You can send home flyers about things that are going to be happening at school. Text messaging, also, right? I see a lot of people saying this Teach Hub text messaging. Um, Question for people who are using that, is that something also that you can schedule messages as well, or is it something that you have to kind of like babysit when you send it out? If you're using it, you can come off mute as well. I just want to give everybody idea so if they want to use it, they kind of have a better idea of how to use it. Anyone?
Carrie, can you tell us a little bit about Teach Hub?
Sure, I'm so sorry. I'm
No worries.
actually here with a student right now. But yeah, I love Teach Hub. I do the email and the messaging. And what I love about it is because you can create customized groups and stars.
Mhm.
and then just click a box access in Gamma. And then once you do that, when you're putting any message out on the Teach Hub side, you'll see it under custom groups. So, for example, we have a trip next week to SUNY New Paltz. So I have to send a message out to 13 families. It's in my stars. I can send it to them. I do usually do email and text, but I find that obviously text messages come super quick and parents seem to read them a lot quicker than emails.
Awesome sauce. So there you guys go, right? So we have Teach Hub as an option, right? So something to note about text messages, right? People are almost always on their phones. Think about on your way to work if you take the train, how many people are on their phones in the morning, right? Almost everybody is on their phone. People go on their phones on their lunch breaks. People are on their phones like literally after work all the way until they go to bed, right? And so text messaging is a great way, a really quick way of being able to get information to people. There's several ways to do it. If you want to do it where you can mass text everyone, you can use something like that. If you want to use something like Remind also has a scheduling feature as well. If your school is enrolled for Remind messaging, that is another way that you can also use the text messaging within your work. What I have been testing out recently has been voice notes, right? I realize that sometimes I do not have the capacity to text out a dissertation. And so what I do is I do voice notes. So I use there's a company called Reverb. You get 5 of them for free, I believe. You can pay for it after that, but you get 5 messages that you can send for free. It does do a transcription as well, right? And this is something that you can also send within a newsletter or within a text message as well, right? And so all they would have to do is click on the button. It will have the waveform, which is the thing that actually like speaks, and then at the bottom of it transcribe what you said so that people can actually like read along if they're more visual and want to read along with what you said within your message. And that has been working for me a lot these days because right sometimes people right they do have the time to listen, and so they'll click the button and be able to listen to a voice note. Virtual and in-person touch points, right? One of the things that really disappointed me is that during the pandemic we had access to Zoom and all the tech, all the latest tech, and then people abandoned them as soon as they got back into schools as if, right? Like everything like switched back to uh before 2019, right? And so I think what we have to also look at going back to that idea of thinking about people's schedules and comfort levels and things of that nature, we can also offer virtual and in-person touch points, right? If you notice, because I had a FAFSA night last night at one of the schools that we've been in heavily. I've been there since September, and we had 13 families come out. We have 106 seniors on the roster, right? And that is usual for those type of things. However, families were interested. Hey, if you have office hours, I would love to show up for the virtual office hours so we can get the FAFSA done or do whatever we need to do. So don't discount any of the virtual things. Offer them in conjunction with the in-person touch points. And because you guys are so busy and have so much to do, you do it on your time, right? So you create, like, think about your schedule, think about the people's schedule, find a happy medium, and create office hours where people can show up and get support around the things that they need to. Or if you wanted to have an appointment system, right, where these are the times that you can book an appointment with me and they can show up during that time to get support around the things that they need help with, right? Workshops, right? Family nights beyond just FAFSA and FAFSA and college application apps. One of the things that I learned from doing this work is that families need the information, right? And so sometimes doing like an informational and the actual FAFSA all in one night can be very overwhelming for families. right? If you're teaching them about all the things that you get from doing the FAFSA and da 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 and prom and this and that, and okay, we're gonna put you on the computer to do the actual FAFSA, it can be a lot. Think of how you feel when you come out of work. That's what I want you guys to think of. Think of how exhausted you are when you come out of work. To put that much information and kind of condense it in one because you might not see them again, right? Could be a lot and could actually do the opposite, right? And then they're still back into the place where they still didn't know what to do from the beginning. So think about ways that you can engage families. You can give them information, fun ways to kind of engage them and be able to teach them about things that are not all condensed in one format. Okay. And sometimes you can get creative, right? What I've seen people doing, I've seen people using podcast methods, right? Did you know that Google also offers something called I think it's called Notebook LM. And with Notebook LM, right, like you would tell it whatever information you want and it will make it like a fun podcast to listen to, right? And so people will be able to like listen to whatever the information in a podcast format, right, on their own time. So that's something you can think about. Student-led updates, right? If students are doing videos and things like that, and those are things that are being sent home to the parents. And parent-to-parent communication. Almost everybody works at a place that has a parent coordinator. Almost every place has a PTA, right? How do we work within those groups who are already set up to manage parents? How do we also get them involved in the work so that we can kind of let go of something? We'll be involved when we need to be involved, but also include them enough that we have the parent buy-in, and then we can, send whatever messaging we need to message through that parent-to-parent peer kind of idea network. Okay, so here are some tech tools that you guys are probably already using. One of the things that I have been using heavily in one of the schools that I'm in, they have a Google Classroom. And so with the Google Classroom, what we do is we schedule out messages. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is predictive. We can kind of figure out what needs to be done when, right? We have scholarships that have deadlines. And so we'll pre-plan a bunch of stuff, schedule it to go out at certain times, and then that way we don't have to babysit anything. If you guys are using Remind, that's the same idea, right? Because you can schedule messages ahead of time. You don't have to babysit anything. Your kids and families who are enrolled will be able to get information. Whether you are babysitting it, whether you're actually typing something or not, they'll be able to get information whenever. For people who don't want to, like, if you don't want to use another thing, because I do realize that sometimes some of these tech tools can be a lot, right? Like MailChimp is a lot, right? But you can create uh, messages in your Outlook systems. If you're still using Google, you can schedule messages to go out at the time. I'm a schedule send girly. Sometimes you got a message from me a week ago, right? But it was a message to you as if you were getting it as if I just sent it, right? Because schedule send does work, and you can schedule send a lot of things where you don't have to babysit it. Anytime you have enough time to do something, schedule a bunch of stuff to go out when they need to go out, and then you don't have to babysit it. Use your Zoom for those virtual things. One of the things that I do because I'm on social media is that meeting people where they are, I tend to go live sometimes on either YouTube or Instagram. I have found a lot of success. It's helpful to not have to take them off a platform that they're already using and bringing them into something else. So that has been helping me. If it helps you, it helps you. I know some people are not really on social media or they're not the person who manages social media, but consider also doing something that has kind of like a live chat feature where people can get information as well. Okay. All right, so let's think about populations that need a little bit more love, right? And so we do realize that there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now that is like crazy, right? Like, get us off the timeline, take us somewhere else, Calgon, take me away kind of stuff, right? So we want to think about those populations, right? So immigrant families right now are having a tough time. wherever, right? And specifically thinking about our mixed status families, we need to really figure out how we're going to disseminate information to them that makes them feel safe, that, they feel like they can come to you and give you information about themselves without feeling like they will be outed in any way. So we have to think about how we serve those immigrant families to make sure that, right, we can make this process as easy for them as possible. Okay. The other thing, families with language barriers, because they could be one and the same with immigrant families, or they could just, right, like, I've been here, I have all my papers, I have everything, but like, I don't understand nothing you said. And you're telling me a lot of things, but it's not in the way that I understand. So we have to really think about our families with language barriers. The other people are working families, right? Like that has been a thing for forever, is trying to engage people who work, right? Who work long hours. They want to be involved, but because of their work schedule cannot be. How do we also engage those families in the process? And the other thing is people with tech barriers, because we do know even in 2025, there are some families who do not have adequate Wi-Fi access to be able to do some of these things. And so we have to think about those kids as well and those families as well. So what I want to know from you is which one of those populations has been like the hardest for you to reach? So like if you can share that in the chat. It's like which one of these populations has been the hardest for you to reach and support? Families with tech barriers. Anybody else? What populations, families, and caregivers with language barriers? Yeah, language barriers, tech barriers, right? Um, I would say for me is between the um, working families and the language barriers that are not Spanish, right? Because we do realize that, right? Spanish isn't the only other language, and so I've been coming across a lot of Bangladeshi families. I've been coming across a lot of African families, and they speak different dialects, right? Like some of them may like the I guess the unifying language might be French, but some of them have their own language that is not French. And so it's been hard to kind of figure out how to support them in the languages that they speak as well, because maybe it's not one of the big languages that they support for translation and things like that. So some of that can be a little bit difficult. Scholars who are financially in need and undocumented students.
And
Wonderful.
I'd love
Mhm.
to hear, like, if it's okay,
Mhm.
Amber,
Absolutely.
from other folks, like if they have creative thing, because like not everyone listed the same things here in the chat. So like I wonder if other folks are having some creative solutions to tech folks with tech barriers, or something about the language barriers you were talking about. Are there some creative things that folks are doing for some of these tough populations?
Hello, everyone. So, Hopeton Allen from your College C program. Again, I'm in the college sector, the other side to what you all do. Again, thank you all for the work that you do. And I'm happy with the partnership that we actually do create, because it's literally a hand in hand transition. And any way we could support at York and CUNY, we're on board. So, one thing that I've noticed and I've seen, um, I have utilized scholars who are from those countries. So when I do promotions and when we do media, I have the scholars who are from those countries to speak the language and or ensure that the flyers or the information is translated for the families. I know I've seen that done on y'all end, but when they come to the college sector is all English only, and I've realized that while scholars are protected by FERPA, and we cannot speak to the parents themselves about the scholar's information. When letters go home or when media is being sent or flyers are being sent, it's always great to translate it into that language, and also a QR code where they could actually have other languages they could actually explore. Because some countries speak more than one languages and dialect. We have something on campus called You Will, where every scholar is able to get a therapist or me or assistants, but we're able to get them into when they scan the QR code to that, they're able to then go into the different languages to make sure they are in a comfortable area. I wrote undocumented scholars because we know that that's a population right now that's being a sensitive population. So seeing it being translated into a language that they can actually understand goes a long way. Yes, English is always the main language that's given across the education spectrum. But once it's translated, and then I do agree with Amber with the going live sector. I've seen when you go live, I've seen scholars who say, Mr. Allen, I'm trying to understand. I have these scholars from the Asian diaspora, and they're like, we love the fact that you are breaking down part of our language, but I speak Mandarin. I don't speak this language.
Right.
How can I best understand this one and still get the need to benefit my own entity? And then parents themselves too. They are part of what I call the lawn mowing effect. Instead of being helicopters, I'm like, you're a lawnmower. You have to take away the grass so that your scholars can walk better. So I've seen making a translation into that language helps a little bit better, and then ensuring a QR code. Everyone has a cell phone. A QR code is there, so if this language doesn't apply to you, please scan this code to get the language translated to you and someone to speak to you on your level.
Nice. Nice. And that's the very idea of accessibility, right? And so like when we're thinking about all the students that we serve and all the parents that we serve, right? Realizing also, so one of the things that was very apparent for me in last night's FAFSA night, um, one, we have parents who either have not done this, right, for themselves. We have parents who have done this, but maybe somebody else, right, another caring adult did such a good job of doing everything that they now know nothing, right? And so we have to figure out ways to engage all of those families, right? And so also thinking about a typical FAFSA night where you might have your mixed status families in with a regular family, right? In with, right? Like all these different people that you have to engage at the same time. What are ways in which that we can actually make sure that they are getting what they need? And so one of the things is, right, thinking about our communication style and adapting our communication style to meet their needs, right? So that could be translation, that could be flexible timing. Maybe, right, this is not a place for a group discussion. Maybe this is a one-on-one with that particular family, right? Just to make sure that they're getting what they need. That could be inviting someone who does speak their language into the meeting to be able to translate for you. That might mean turning the kid, right, into a translator for you, right? And so we have to think about all the different ways that we can configure this thing to make sure that they're getting what they need, right? Having offline options. So one of the things that I've been working on is creating content that could be sent to families outside of this, right? And so if I can't get that parent who works 12-hour shifts, right, to come in, I have something that I can upload to the Google Classroom, send out in a text message that they can also get the same information that they would have gotten in an actual FAFSA night or senior night or whatever, they're getting that information sent to them so that they don't feel left out, and they can also help their child to make more decisions. So thinking about offline options and ways that we can engage our families to make sure that they have the information that they need, but also making sure that it's also translated in a language that they speak so that they can also feel a part of the process. The other thing is collecting feedback, right, from the parents. Sometimes we assume, and I noticed this for myself, and like, chime in if this was you also. When I got into this work, I went from my own experience and my own experience only, right? I was first generation. My mother comes from the lovely island of Antigua. And so college looks completely different over there, right? And figuring things out. So coming here and like, what's a FAFSA? What is all of this? And why does it cost so much, right? And trying to wrap her head around this American way of doing things, right? There was a lot of things that I used from my own experience that didn't necessarily work all the time with the population that I serve because I'm going from an experience that my students are not experiencing, right? And so one way that we can get information about what will serve them is using polls and surveys and exit tickets. Now, granted, we do have families who are not going to engage regardless, right? But based on the families that do engage, we can find out information about how they actually receive information, and how they would like to be integrated, and things that might be helpful for them and their schedules so that we can make sure that we're also meeting their needs as well. Okay. So I have a scenario for you. Okay. And it might not be a scenario. You might actually be going through this right now because I know I'm going through this right now. Right. So here's the thing. It's FAFSA season, and many of your families have not completed their form yet, right? What are strategies we can use right now to engage families and get more FAFSAs completed by the end of the year? Okay, so this is what I want you to think of, though, before you put your idea in the chat. When we are thinking about family engagement or any type of engagement, right? We have to think about plan. Plan is a series of steps, correct? Right? So a plan is a series of steps. So we need to think about the ways in which we are going to engage these families around this specific thing, which is the FAFSA, right? And so I want you to think of like what does that idea look like for you? What is something that you would do right now to make sure that those families were able to complete their FAFSA? So in your idea, I want you to give me like a 3-step process. Okay? I want you to think about communication. I want you to think about also the actual doing of the thing, right? So how do you get from point A to point B, right? So now that you know that, now I want you to drop your idea in the chat. What is it that you would do to make sure that your families were able to complete their FAFSA by December 31st, 2026 at 11:59, to have most of your students or all of your students complete this FAFSA? If you want to say it out loud, happy to take you off mute as well if you would like to share. Okay, so Odette says call families and invite them to come to school and bring their taxes. Shane says schedule a caregiver webinar to answer questions and concerns about the FAFSA before December 15th. Nice. What else can we do? All right, so I'm gonna say one. Oh, wait, nope. Virtual drop-in sessions to help parents create their FSA IDs. That's a great one because that one, honestly, you would think that part would probably be the easiest part, but for a lot of folks, sometimes that part is the hardest. Just trying to get things started. I had a family yesterday that came. She was in college at some point of her career, and so for FAFSA, she technically already had her name in the system. And so creating her FSA ID took a lot longer than other families because she already had something in the system that they were connecting her to. So Hopeton says launch a rapid multi-channel FAFSA awareness push, right? So it's multiple steps for them over there, right? Um, Email and text everybody and invite both virtual and in-person event. Have pizza, give actionable lists to complete tasks by themselves, including links to various resources. Let me go back to this multi-step push. Okay. So here's the thing. All right. So for many of you, I need you guys to think as a marketer and not as a college and career or school counselor, right? And so when you see some of your favorite campaigns come out, somebody tell me something, a marketing campaign that actually got them to buy something. or a product that they felt so influenced to purchase? You can come off mute and tell me. Oh, the iPhone. Okay. So the iPhone, right? So when iPhone is thinking about launching an iPhone or this terrible little purse carrier thing that I don't know if you guys seen that costs $200. Right? When people are coming up with these campaigns to get people to buy something or get them to influence something, it takes a series of steps, right? It takes weeks, months, years sometimes to create these campaigns. So I want you to think about when you're thinking about putting together something, what is the goal, right? So the goal for us is to get X amount of fastest completed by December 31st, right? And so if we know that that is the goal, then we have to think about the steps to get to the goal, right? So one of the things we have to think about is our segments, right? So we have different types of parents, right? Because somebody give me a type of parent, like an archetype of a parent. So I'll add one. A parent who has attended college. That's an archetype of a parent. Okay? Um, can you give me another archetype of a parent? A parent with a student already in college. Give me another archetype of a parent. Undocumented parents. Give me another one. Parent who doesn't see the need for college, right? So notice that there are different types of parents here. What we need to do is to get into the mind of these different types of parents and what they need, right? So a parent who's never attended college before, what is something that they're going to need in order to help their child now go to college? What is something that they might need to help their kid go to college if they've never been to college before? They're going to need to know money, right? They're going to need money. They're going to need to know how you get the money, right? So there are things that happen, proper guidance and clarity, right? So here's the thing. When we're thinking about creating anything, right? It's not going to be as simple as we're just going to host a FAFSA night. There are things that might need to precede that FAFSA night. There might needs to be like an information session that happens before they come to the FAFSA night, right? So we're not spending the time on doing also giving information and also doing the thing, right? Because doing the thing, depending on who you are, if you have computer access and you know how to work a computer, the application process is going to be like 30 minutes or less. If you're not really used to working on computers, you don't have a computer at home, that thing can take you like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, right? You don't want to have to also spend time teaching them what it is that they're doing, right? And so if I'm thinking about these segments and I'm thinking about a process, the goal is the FAFSA by December 31st. There are things that have to happen before that to make sure that everybody is ready to go on December 31st. By December 31st, I have the numbers that I need, right? And so some of that might be education, right? So that could be a 3 text message process, right? We send them a video from Federal Student Aid, how to get your FSA ID. We send them a video about, or we send them a image that shows all the different things you get from doing a FAFSA, right? Your Pell Grant, your FSEOG grant, your direct loan, your Parent Plus loan, your work study, right? We do another one to say, hey, if you would like to get your kid more money for college and they have to complete this thing, here's how you would do it, right? And then the next thing is like, hey, we're having a FAFSA night on X day. If you bring your tax forms and things like that, we will help you with the process. You see how that is a process and not just one singular thing that happens in a vacuum? We have to give process to the thing, and that's how we get more people to complete, right? And so when I tell you guys to think about your family engagement strategy, I want you to think about it that granular. Who are the people, right? Because everybody doesn't need the same thing. If the entire family is undocumented, including the student, are they coming to FAFSA night? No, right? So what is the information that they need? How do I package that information to make sure that they're able to get it and digest it and be able to show up for themselves and their child, right? How do I also make them feel safe in that process? Maybe that is conversations. Maybe they need to come to the school and speak to us directly. Maybe that's a phone call with someone who speaks their language and explaining the different processes that are involved in an undocumented student being able to get money for college, right? If it's the other archetypes of parents that we're talking about, people who have never done this, or students who show promise, but the parent doesn't see the need for college. What are the things that we do to precede that actual thing that we want to happen, that we do before this FAFSA night happens, so that they are also filled in and aware of the things that they need to do, need to bring, so they're not showing up unprepared either. Does that make sense? Can I get a thumbs up in the chat if that was clear? Awesome. So when we're thinking about family engagement, I want you to think of it that like in that way. What I would love to do at some point, you guys are going to get the document, and you probably already have access to that document now. What I want you to do, I want you to think about the hardest to reach students or the hardest to reach families at your school. And I want you to create the archetype for those parents. And I want you to think about the things that you want to give them that will help them to make their job easier, but also to make your job easier, right? Um, that everybody feels prepared, everybody has what they need and able to do the things that they need to do, right? So if it's your undocumented population, if it's your immigrant families, if it's your families that work all the time and do not have time to come into the school, what are the things that they need to be successful? What are the pieces of information you can give them that you can set and forget, right? That is like the work is working for you and you don't have to show up so much to do the work. I want you to think about all those things as well. Okay. So let's play a game of Would You Rather. Ready to play? All right. So, would you rather host a morning coffee chat with parents or run an evening family game night? Which would you rather do? Let's see, coffee chat, family game night, coffee chat, coffee chat. Okay. Can I get somebody who wanted the coffee chat and somebody who wanted the evening game night? Can you tell me why you chose what you chose?
I
I'm
think it
thinking,
suits. Oh, sorry.
sorry. I chose coffee shop. I'm thinking that maybe if the parents drop off their children, they might be more willing to stay for coffee.
Okay. Okay. Who was the other person? I heard another person come off mute.
Oh, Kalia. I'm at that. I don't work directly with families anymore. I'm at the network, but I think that our students are all immigrant families, and I think that coffee or tea just connects with them. That's how I'm looking at it.
Okay.
You know,
Nice. Anybody
grandma's
choose?
house, drinking
Yes.
coffee, eating, that kind of thing.
Cafe Bustelo. Yes. Love it. Did somebody else pick game night over coffee chat? No. Okay. All right. Next one. Send an important update via text message or send it as a 30-second voice note. Which would you rather? I see a lot of text. So for me, it would be a combination of both, depending on what it is that I have to tell them, right? And sometimes, right? Sometimes the world gets heavy and I have a message to share about like what's going on. So I would do a little bit of both, just to kind of make sure that they're able to um, gauge how to move forward a little bit better, because sometimes text messages can be a little long, um, depending on who's doing the talking. I'm long-winded. Okay, would you rather one big themed family event each quarter or host short, consistent monthly touch points? Big family event. I like it. Okay. All right. So thanks for playing, guys, because I'm looking at the time and I'm realizing we running out of time. So all I want to tell you guys is like when you're introducing any of the new strategies that you learned about today, I want you to think like a scientist, right? You're gonna start small, you're gonna test it out, and then you're gonna scale what works, right? Everything is not gonna work for everybody, and that's okay, right? You go back to the drawing board. If you notice that something isn't working, you go back to the drawing board and then you try something else, right? It's okay to try new things, right? You try it, give it a month, see how people are responding to it. If it works, continue. If it doesn't work, scrap it and try something new, okay? But thank you guys for joining us. I sincerely appreciate you guys. I hope you got a lot of information out of this. You guys do have access to that sheet where you can put your information about your own plan. Remember to think about it as, right, like all the things, right? Think about all the things that lead up into the action that you want, and you'll have more success that way. Thank you guys so much. Sandy?
Yeah, thanks so much, Amber. I really love that part about the archetypes. That really spoke to me. Definitely gonna turnkey that. Also, I put up a little poll for our evaluation. So if you all can fill that out, that would be great. Please do. Um, so far we've had 6 people fill it out. There's 2 of you that haven't. A few people dropped off. They may have answered. So if there's more than 2, please answer. Do it. And please join me in unmuting yourself and applauding for Ms. P, who led us through this great conversation. Thank you. Woo, I loved it. And hopefully you'll join us next month when we're talking about CDOS. You can sign up for that at our workshops.newvisions.org website. Once you're done filling out your poll, everybody did it. Then we're done. Thank you so much and have a great day. Thank you, Amber, Miss P. Thank you,
Thanks
everyone.
for having me, Sandy.
You know it.